What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto finds Tsunade beaten in? If you enjoy this video then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. 3 years after the Kyuubi attack. We could stay in a hotel Tsunade-sensei, we lost them weeks ago. The brunette girl said, clutching a pig to her ample chest. Despite being with the legendary Kunoichi, she didn't like staying in abandoned buildings, especially when her sensei and mother figure was more drunk than normal. She didn't fully understand it, but she knew why her sensei would drink so heavily around this time every year, as well as 2 other days, one of them in particular she didn't like to think about. Tsunade turned to her young apprentice with a cold glare and said something so badly slurred even she didn't really know what it was, as her brain was drowning in sake strong enough to knock the average man out cold with a single shot. Besides, her body was on autopilot anyway. She tipped the bottle she was holding and drained it, tossed it away. Her overdone throw caused her massive right to fall out of her gray top as she never wore anything under it, turned staggered into the nearest bedroom and flopped face down on the bed, her visible to her side on the bed. Just as she finished, the front door burst open. October 10th, 8:33 a.m. NNNG. Turn that damn light off. Tsunade grumbled and cracked open her right eye slightly, then snapped it closed when the sunlight flooded in on her foggy brain. Shit. Morning already. Shizune. Oh Kami. That was a mistake. Tsunade whispered and waited a few moments, but didn't hear anything. As bad as she felt and as foggy as her brain was, there were certain things she counted on. She had the worst luck in the world. Good people die. And Shizune was her annoyingly reliable conscience whether she wanted her to be or not, and that set off an alarm in her head. She rolled on her back and sat up on the side of the bed, grumbled in annoyance as she tucked her back in, then closed and tightened her shirt. Then her nose picked up an all too familiar scent that sent adrenaline flooding through her body, obliterating the remaining alcohol. It was hours old, but she'd know it anywhere. Blood. She ran into the main room, her eyes scanning the room as only someone of her level could. Not even the tiniest detail was missed. Running to her right towards the kitchen, she slapped aside the 900-pound couch like it was nothing, sending it crashing through the wall. She froze in her tracks as the whole image came into view. Groceries were scattered on the floor. Next to Taunton, who'd been cut in half, she dropped to her knees, shaking her head slowly. She pulled a scrap of cloth from Taunton's mouth and sniffed it. The blood on it was human. No, 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 no. Don't do this to me again, not her. Tsunade said, then her expression turned stone cold. I will not lose another person. I'll find you Shizune and save you, and not even Kami will stop me. Tsunade said in an icy hard voice, stood and left the house. The front door blown off the hinges by a touch of her hand. Her first stop was her only clue, the name on the bag of groceries. Takaro's. 8:46 a.m. Takaro's grocery. The door flew open, almost knocked off the hinges. Behind the checkout counter, the owner, Takaro, was filled with fear, the air so thick he could barely breathe. Then he saw her. A blonde woman with her hair in 2 ponytails, gray shirt and green jacket over a huge chest, black pants and what looked like a blue diamond tattoo on her forehead. She headed for him the moment she saw him, her face filled with rage on a level he'd never seen before, but she wasn't showing it, which made her even scarier. How someone that mad could hold it in. May I help you? He said, nervously. Tsunade looked at the man, noting the name tag on his shirt not hidden by the apron, his black hair streaked with gray. He was probably around her age and in good shape, but obviously no shinobi. Last night a girl came in here, 5'5", short brown hair, friendly, nice smile, white trimmed black shirt and pants. Tsunade said calmly, but there was a hard edge to her voice that warned of a very violent death if you didn't answer. His mind raced a moment. Hi, I remember her, she only got vegetables. She was especially interested in how fresh the cabbage was. Tsunade interrupted. I'll only ask this once, I even think you're lying to me. Tsunade said coldly, then grabbed the counter with her right hand and casually ripped the ton of wood and other things from the floor where it was nailed down a moment ago. I'll get upset, Tsunade said and casually set it down. She followed. He swallowed a big lump in his throat as the kanji for gambling on the upper left part of her jacket shoved a memory into the front of his mind. Tsunade, one of the legendary Sannin? Takaro asked nervously. Tsunade smiled coldly and nodded. Dear Kami. Takaro said, then his eyes darted around as he thought hard, focusing on every detail of the girl's visit and everything he saw after she left. Streetlight. Tsunade's right eyebrow raised slightly, but noticeably. 3 goons usually hang out around here looking for girls. Last night they were across the street. They left a few minutes after she did, in the same direction. Takaro said. Names. Tsunade said coldly. I don't know their names. But they work for Gato, the shipping tycoon. He's running Wave into the ground. Extortion, murder, kidnapping, slavery, you name it and he's into it. Takaro said. Where's his headquarters? Tsunade said coldly. Warehouse District, Pier 7. It's the biggest warehouse, you can't miss it. But it's heavily guarded, there's always at least 50 men there, not counting the dozen mercenaries he uses as his bodyguards. They're all heavily armed. You may want to hurry. He has a huge cargo ship docked that leaves at noon. It's always loaded down with cargo, none of it legal. Takaro said. Tsunade smiled. Good, and if this is a setup? Tsunade said coldly, turned and left. Looking around a moment she found the ocean, leapt to the roof and blurred across the rooftops until she reached the warehouses. It didn't take but a few seconds to spot her target. You better be alive, Shizune. Please, just come back to me alive and I swear I'll clean up my life. Just please, don't leave me alone. I need you, and I'm sorry for everything I ever said to you. Tsunade said sincerely, holding in her emotions. 9:02 a.m., Warehouse District, Gato's office. Boss, there's a woman out front that's looking for the girl we picked up last night. She wants to talk to you in person. He said. She armed or wearing a metal plate with a symbol on it? Gato said. No, but I think you might want to see her. She's got the biggest fucking jugs I've ever seen in my life. Bitch could feed the whole damn town by herself. He said. Gato's eyes got big for a moment, then he smiled. Send her in. And have the boys ready. If she's as big as you say, I want her. Oh, have the girl cleaned up and brought down. But stay in the back room until I call. She may have some money I can scam first. He nodded, then turned and left the office. Gato called in 2 of his biggest mercenaries to reinforce the 2 with him already, to boost his image and maybe take her himself. 9:15 a.m. Tsunade walked into his office. He was a little man with a big ego. The guards were normal mercenaries. No threat at all. Then she glanced at the far door when she felt it. Shizune was there, and she almost lost her composure when she felt how weak it was. If they'd been beating her she would have drained most of her chakra by now to hold on, but as talented as Shizune was, she didn't have the skill or chakra reserves to properly heal any major injuries, especially to her organs. She had to hurry. She saw this, Gato, staring at her chest. She knew that perverted stare all too well. She'd seen it since she was 9 years old and her S had the first of several, explosive, growth spurts. I know she's here, I want her back. Tsunade said calmly, but coolly. What is she to you? Gato said. I'm in charge of her safety, that's all you need to know. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? How much do you want? Tsunade said. She's a spunky lil bitch, but a great fuck. Gato said and saw the busty blonde woman tense up a moment. A girl like her could make me a lot of money, but I'll cut you a deal. $400,000 and I wanna fuck those tits. Gato said with a perverted smile. Tsunade clenched her fists hard, cracking her knuckles, then reached into her shirt, pulled out an envelope and tossed it on the desk. It's just over $300,000, give me the girl and I can get you another 3 within a week. Tsunade said, holding in her emotions. As mad as she was, she didn't want to fight, she was sick of killing and death. You must think I'm stupid. This'll keep her alive a week while you bring me 6, and even million and you can have her back almost good as new. Try anything and she's dead. Gato said confidently. I want to see her before I agree to anything. Tsunade said very strongly. Bring her, Gato said. Tsunade heard a faint buzz, then the far door opened. Standing there, held up by the shoulders, was Shizune. She knew with a glance and her posture where they'd beaten and probably tortured her, and she knew they her. Her eyes were glassy, they'd broken her. I want to check her for injuries. If she's seriously injured you won't leave this room alive. Tsunade said, the second part coldly. Gato glanced around and nodded to his men. She's been roughed up, but she's alive. You don't go near her until I get my money. Try it, Jugs, and you'll join her. Tsunade reached into her shirt and lifted out her necklace. Do you know what this is? Tsunade said. A cheap necklace, Gato said. This is the necklace of the first Hokage of Fire Country, any shinobi village can confirm it. Tsunade said. So what's it worth? Gato said, curiously. To any shinobi village. About 10 times what you are. Give her to me and you can have it. Tsunade said with a straight face. Gato's eyes got big as saucers. That little jewel is worth that much? If you knew who he was you wouldn't ask. As much as this means to me, she means more, do we have a deal? Tsunade said. If it's worth that much, how'd you get it? You aren't a ninja, are you? I don't want Konoha sending assassins after me to get it back. I've heard how those hidden villages operate. Gato said. Tsunade's face twisted in disgust. I'm not with them. You couldn't pay me enough to even go near that fucking village. Tsunade practically spat out venomously. Gato smiled, he knew hate when he saw it. Just mentioning Konoha disgusted her to her core. Deal. Gimme the necklace and you can take the girl. Tsunade removed the necklace and held it in her right, motioned them to bring her Shizune. Once they did, she scooped her up in her arms bridal style and with a flick of her wrist tossed it to him. I never want to see you or your goons again. Tsunade said coldly, turned and left the office. No, not worth my. Shizune said weakly after they were out of the office and starting across the warehouse floor. Shut up, Shizune, it's my fault they grabbed you. You're the only family I have left. I promised your uncle I'd watch out for you. I couldn't live with myself if I lost you because I was too caught up in my own shit to protect you. What they did to you last night is unforgivable, and if it takes the rest of my life I'm going to make it up to you, Shizune. Why couldn't you just run? I can take care of myself, and even if they did me I can take it. I've survived worse. You're just like Dan, you know that. Too damn noble for your own good. I'm not worth protecting. Now. Tsunade stopped in the middle of the floor when she heard Gato yell. Then they were surrounded by at least 100 armed men, more pouring in every second. Ya no blondie. I was thinking that you must be important to someone, either friends or an old enemy. I really don't care which, but I bet I could find someone that would love a bitch with jugs like yours. But before that you need to be trained how to obey and please a man. Gato said from the doorway to his office. Besides, I already have plans for the little bitch. So if you'll hand her over we'll keep your beating to a minimum and just fuck you into submission. I think 200 men should be enough to break you in. Gato said, signaled with his hand and the doors were closed. I'm only going to ask once. Let us go and I'll let you live. You don't know who you're dealing with. Tsunade said coldly, her back still to Gato. Look out behind you. Shizune yelled with her remaining strength. Tsunade spun around to see a steel pipe splatter Shizune's head, spraying the girl's blood. Small bits of her skull and brain on her face. As the man followed through on his swing, Tsunade saw her apprentice die in her arms just like Dan did, Shizune's final words still ringing in her ears. Shizune fell limply from her arms as she went numb from shock. When he swung back at her chest she grabbed the pipe in her right hand, which didn't budge a millimeter. Get her, but I want her alive. Gato yelled. Tsunade swung the pipe into his chest, sending him and it flying across the warehouse and through the wall almost 200 feet away, then whipped off her green coat and laid it carefully but quickly over Shizune as she kneeled. The huge mob still over 20 feet away on all sides. You sacrificed yourself for me like you're a damn Hokage. I finally understand, Sensei, and I'll do everything in my power to honor you, Shizune. Tsunade said solemnly, then stood facing Gato. Gato watched through the opening in the crowd. The blonde woman seemed to rise in slow motion, like some monster in a movie, and when she raised her head and looked at him, what he saw froze his very soul in fear. You're dead, Tsunade said. Never in her entire life had she been so mad. Every ounce of emotional pain, sadness, loss, every negative emotion that she ever felt filled her entire being at once. And she was going to unleash all her pain on the people that had taken Shizune from her. What Gato heard her say was so cold, so devoid of humanity it seemed to come from death itself. No human could have said that. He'd been threatened before by crime bosses bigger than him, even S-rank missing nin, but that woman beat them all. He was terrified, he knew he was going to die. She'd spent almost her entire adult life around death. She'd grown up during the last great shinobi war and spent most of her time up to her 30s killing or watching friends die. She had more blood on her than most shinobi villages and hated death with a fiery passion that dwarfed all others. She knew loss on a scope that few people in the world could even comprehend. But that was before they took Shizune from her. Forgive me. Tsunade whispered, then flashed through a series of hand signs for a jutsu she'd created years ago but never done. There was a small chance it would kill her, but she didn't care. Seal release. Tsunade exclaimed as they closed on her. The diamond mark on her forehead glowed and the purple seal appeared on her forehead. Then she flashed through several more hand signs for the second part of the jutsu. Chakra release. Reinforcement. Tsunade exclaimed powerfully as the purple lines of the special seal spread down her face, covering her body, arms and legs. Just before they reached her, she screamed as all the chakras stored within the seal flooded back into her body. But unlike her creation rebirth jutsu, this didn't heal her. It put back all the chakra she had stored, which quadrupled her current reserves and released a blast of chakra from her body that knocked everyone within 10 feet of her off their feet. Calling up all her pain and anger, she charged headlong into the group in front of her. Normally she hated blood, she even had a fear of it, until a minute ago. Now she was going wash her soul clean. The old Tsunade had to die. She was going to drown her in a lake of blood and let it drain into the ocean. Normally when she hit someone with all her power, they were shinobi and the impact splattered their head, caved in their chest and or sent them flying. This time she was pumping massive amounts of chakra into her arms, and instead of clubs, her fists cut through the men like a chakra-enhanced scythe through wheat. Gato watched in horrified fascination at the sight before him. He knew now she had to be a former shinobi. He just wished he'd handled her differently because she was defending the small area around the girl's body. What had him too scared to even look away was the fact that she was cutting down his men by the dozen. He'd called all his men to beaten her into submission, over 200 of them. And it wasn't going to be enough when she finished gutting his men like fish. Which is what she was doing, taking off heads and limbs, or cutting them in half, with her bare hands. If he didn't know better, you'd think she was using a sword, but she wasn't. Scariest of all was the look on her face. The more men she slaughtered, and it was a slaughter, she was covered in blood from head to toe like the floor, the more her expression turned to happiness. She was enjoying it, like a kid with a new toy. She was reveling in the carnage. It only took her 10 minutes to turn over 200 armed men into 30 tons of bloody meat. Then she turned to him with a smile that would have scared the devil himself. She started toward him like a demon made of blood. It dripped from every part of her body. The only thing not red was her eyes and her teeth showing from that terrifying smile. He happened to glance at the dead girl near her. There was a circle around her of clean floor, like something was keeping the blood away from her. He turned and ran back into his office, locking the door behind him in what he knew was a futile gesture. Stopping in front of it, Tsunade grabbed the wall, tore it off and tossed it aside. She walked up to the desk he was cowering behind and held out her hand. Necklace. His hand shaking, she watched him toss it to her. She caught it and put it back on. She pushed the desk aside, lunged forward and grabbed the small man by the collar of his expensive suit and jerked him off his feet. "Do you have anyone else here or on that ship?" Tsunade said in a deathly cold voice. F, 4, on ship. 3 girls and a woman. One of the girls is special for some reason. They insisted she be restrained a certain way. They didn't say why. Oh, and the woman has these manacles with red lights on them. They glow when she struggles. Spare me. I'll give you anything you want, just please don't kill me. Gato said. Sounds like chakra restraints, and the special girl either has a bloodline limit or... Tsunade thought, then walked him to his desk and slammed him on it face down, his legs hanging off the edge. You have any friends or partners I should know about? Tell me the truth and you might leave here only crippled. No one will come looking for me if business stops. I'm not big enough yet, I just got set up here 2 years ago. Gato said. That's all I needed to know. Tsunade said, then released her right hand from his back where she was holding him down, then smiled sadistically, and drove her right fist through Gato's clothes and up his ass almost to her shoulder. A moment later she yanked out her arm with Gato's still beating heart in her hand. She stood there with a smile of satisfaction on her face as she watched Gato and his heart stop moving and die, then dropped it on the desk next to him before walking back out into the warehouse. Tsunade flashed through a series of hand signs, then slapped the floor. Summon. There was a huge puff of smoke and it cleared moments later to reveal a huge slug that flinched a moment later. Shizune is dead, and I might be too by the end of the day. Guard her body and clean up this mess. I don't care how. Just don't damage the office, it may have something important in it. Tsunade said and headed for the dock. 5 minutes later, inside Gato's ship. Her hands locked in those damned chakra manacles which were chained to the wall above her head. Her luxurious, long red hair was filthy. Her beautiful silk dress long since shredded, and not even allowed the small dignity of her panties. Her legs spread and ankles chained to the steel wall. Her once firm, beautiful FF cup S now hung from her chest badly bruised. Her lush, manicured patch of silky red hair on her mound was filthy and matted, half of it missing, and she'd been ally violated more times than she could remember, but they hadn't broken her. But even her iron will had limits, and she was one, maybe 2 sessions away from breaking and telling that little bastard what he wanted to know before she was sent to him, and either executed or made a slave, assuming her few allies didn't save her. Then she'd felt it about 15 minutes ago, a chakra signature that dwarfed even a cage. Never in her life had she encountered such power, and as best she could tell, it was from maybe quarter to half a mile away. Was it another Jinchuriki like the girl, she wondered? It had to be, there was no other explanation for that kind of power. Then the entire wall of her cell was ripped off and tossed away, the door on it still locked. She gasped at what she saw. Standing there was a woman almost completely covered in blood, her hair and clothes were soaked with it. She'd never begged in her life, but without access to her chakra she was dead if this woman wasn't here to save her. "Please help me. I'll do anything you want. Even fuck you, just please help me," she said submissively. She hated doing it, but she had no options left. It was her life or her remaining dignity. She laughed, almost maniacally, then started toward the nude redhead. She swallowed nervously when the bloody woman laughed, crossed the room, and she tensed up a moment when the woman raised a hand toward her head. She thought. Then her face changed to shock when the woman crushed and ripped off her chakra manacles like they were nothing. Then remembered how the woman had come in. "Thank you," she said as the woman broke the manacles on her ankles. The steel bent like wet clay in her hands. No one was that strong, except Tsunade. "Of the Sanin? Hi. Gato and his men are dead. I killed them all. Who are you and why did they want you?" Tsunade said firmly. "Mei Terumi, of Mist. The Mizukage wants me dead because I have 2 bloodline limits. Anyone that has one is killed." Mei said. "Where are the others? I'm running out of time. Help me and I'll make sure you get anywhere you want to go," Tsunade said with a finality to her voice. Mei picked it up in her voice. She sounded like she didn't expect to live through the day. "Hi, I owe you for saving me," Mei said, then winced slightly. Tsunade eyed her quickly. She'd totally missed the bruises. "First," Tsunade said, held her hands in front of Mei's chest and they glowed green. Mei watched, her smile getting bigger as not 2 minutes later she felt incredible, like they'd never touched her. Then she noticed the incredible amount of chakra Tsunade was putting out and saw a clear spot on her forehead where what looked like a purple seal was. "Are you dying? Is that what that seal is doing? Come on, show me where they are. I can't afford to tear this ship apart looking," Tsunade said strongly. Mei flinched, then nodded. 27 minutes later, the dock. Tsunade had gotten Mei and the 3 girls off the ship, one of them a Jinchuriki, along with a pile of boxes of useful cargo crates after checking the cargo manifest. She looked at Mei. "The Mizukage, huh?" she said, and Mei nodded. Tsunade walked to the edge of the pier by the end of the ship, cracked her knuckles and neck, then grabbed the back corner of the huge cargo ship, lifted it out of the water, ignoring the gasps of shock by the small audience, turned it toward the ocean, did the calculations quickly, then with a roar hoisted it up and back and threw the massive ship like a 100,000-ton javelin. It disappeared over the horizon a few moments later. Mei noticed the direction. "Where did you throw it?" Mei said, slightly nervous. She'd never seen such incredible strength. Tsunade laughed. "To its destination." Moments later in Mist, 92% of the corrupt shinobi would die in the most incredible event in their history, including the current Mizukage. How a cargo ship fell from the sky would baffle the people of Mist for years to come. Tsunade leapt off the pier into the water and a few moments later leapt out and landed near the others. They gasped at the lines covering her face, chest and arms, then followed her into the warehouse where they saw a huge slug who seemed to be cleaning a spot on the unusually shiny floor and over to a body with a green coat D over it. When they got close it was apparent it was a girl in her mid-teens. They suddenly stared at Tsunade as she shook a moment. Her chakra dropped dramatically as the lines withdrew back into the diamond on her forehead. Then she dropped to her knees and just emotionally fell apart over the dead girl. The huge slug dispelled, looking almost sad. They watched her for over an hour until she seemed to collapse from exhaustion. Later, she slowly awoke, the sun in her eyes. She moved and then groaned, her entire body was sore, she hurt in places she hadn't even touched in years. "Are you okay?" a woman said. "Damn it Shizune, leave me alone," Tsunade said, then turned her face down into the pillow and sobbed briefly. "Was that her name, Shizune?" the woman said. Tsunade shot up to a sitting position. Her left arm shot out and grabbed the throat of the woman near her, adrenaline flooding her body, as was a growing rage, and did it in the blink of an eye. "Who are you and where am I? Try anything and I'll rip your fucking head off," Tsunade said in a bone-chilling, dead voice. "I'm Tsunami. You're in my house. Please, I meant no harm, your friends are downstairs," Tsunami said, terrified. "Where's Shizune's body?" Tsunade said in that same dead voice. "Downstairs. Wrapped in blankets. Please I'll take you to them. I won't hurt you, please I'll tell you everything, just please don't hurt me Tsunade-san." "The woman, Mei, told me who you are," Tsunami said. Tsunade pushed down her anger, turned her head and focused all her senses on the woman. She was no kunoichi, and the look in her eyes was that of a caring person. She doubted this woman even capable of cruelty. She released her and sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, wait in the hallway, I'll be out in a minute," Tsunade said calmly. "There's a bathroom at the end of the hall, to the left. I'll wait downstairs. Dinner is almost ready. You and the others are welcome to stay and join us for dinner," Tsunami said. Tsunade nodded. "What time is it, and is it still the 10th? "Almost 6:30, and yes it is, you were asleep all day, Mei and the girls refused to leave you," Tsunami said, then turned and left the room, shutting the door behind her. Tsunade flipped off the sheets, turned and put her feet on the floor, spotting her sandals by the door. "Damn it Shizune, why'd you have to be so damn noble? That asshole couldn't have hurt me and you'd still be alive. Now what the fuck am I supposed to do?" Tsunade said, then laughed a few moments. "You had to help those girls Tsunade-sensei. That's what you'd say, you never could refuse anyone in need," Tsunade said, then suddenly sat bolt upright as she had an epiphany. "I ignored your pleas when I had you in my life. It took your death to get through to me, but you finally did it Shizune. From now on I'm going to do everything in my power to honor you and everyone I ever lost," Tsunade said, reached into her inside shirt pocket and pulled something out she hadn't seen in years, her leaf hite. "After I clean this place up I'm going back and clean house. I have a few promises to keep." 6:42 p.m., Tsunami's house. Tsunade came downstairs, and as soon as she stepped out into the open the three girls she'd saved from the ship that morning rushed her with hugs. And it almost made her cry with joy. They reminded her of three little Shizunes. "Okay brats, knock it off, saving your butts made me hungry, so show me to the table. And you can introduce me to our hosts who are laughing at us right now," Tsunade said, then rubbed the two smaller girls' heads. "Sorry Tsunade, they've been anxious to thank you all day and insisted on hugging you at least when you got up," Mei said with an amused smirk. "It's okay, Mei, right?" Tsunade said and saw her nod. Sitting at the table, smiling like idiots, was a man who looked to be in his mid to late 20s, spiky black hair, muscular build, white trimmed black shirt and a white headband. Tsunade caught the glint off a finger, a ring. And it matched the ring Tsunami was wearing, her husband most likely. The older man at the end of the table had similar features to Tsunami and was older than her, probably in his 60s she figured. He kinda reminded her of her old sensei. "Okay girls sit down, Tsunade," she said with a small nod, then sat next to Mei. "Tazuna, Tsunami is my daughter, this is her house," Tazuna said, though he didn't actually stare. He couldn't stop glancing at the blonde's incredible cleavage. "Kaiza, Tsunami-chan's husband and a fisherman. A pleasure to meet you Tsunade-san," Kaiza said politely and nodded. Tsunade smirked. "You've heard of me. I hope it was good. I don't have the best reputation in some places," Tsunade said. Her instincts told her he wasn't from Wave. "You aren't from Wave country are you?" "No, I lived here and there. I moved to Wave a few years ago, fell in love with Tsunami and decided to settle down. Wave is well known for its great fishing." "I'm sorry for your loss," Kaiza said, the last part solemnly. Tsunade nodded, she could tell he meant it. "Thank you, Tsunade." On behalf of the entire village, I want to thank you for freeing us from Gato. I know you didn't do it for us and I'm sorry for your loss, but I was asked by the mayor to find out what you intend to do now. We'd like you to stay. I'm a bridge builder and was making plans to build a bridge to Fire Country that would have freed us from his control. It would have taken a few years for us to start, but with Gato dead we can start sooner. There's something we need though. Since you freed us from him and he has no wife or children as far as we know, the entire town feels you deserve everything he had. Tsunade said. This shocked even her, she hadn't expected this. She figured Gato was probably a multi-millionaire, maybe a billionaire based on the ships and property he seemed to own. Tsunade, before you decide anything, I went through his office, there were several scrolls in his safe. I haven't checked them, but I believe they're summoning contracts. I also found papers that would legally give you control of his company and personal assets. According to the records I found, he was worth about 5 billion. Mei said. All the adults gasped in shock, including Tsunade. Let's eat first, then I'll decide what to do. Tsunade said. 8:02 p.m. Now that everyone has a full stomach. Thank you, and I doubt I'll be able to get rid of you three. Tsunade said. 4. Mei interrupted. I'm not going back to Mist. If I'm right about what you did, I don't need to. My friends should be able to handle it until I can send a message to them. I'm staying here with you. I owe you for everything you did for me. Mei said. Tsunade sighed. Fine, they could use a big sister I guess. Okay you four, names and ages. Tsunade said. Mei stood and moved into the line with the girls. Mei Terumi, 20. Conan, 9. Conan said with a smile. I'm Fu. I'm 5. Fu said shyly but happily, holding up 5 fingers. Hyuga, I'm 5. Hyuga said strongly as she stuck out her flat chest. Tsunade inwardly smirked. The little redhead was a fireball, she could see in her eyes. The green-haired girl with the demon sealed in her was shy and cautious, she'd obviously taken some abuse because of her guest. The oldest girl with the blue hair with a paper flower in it was most likely an orphan that's lived on her own a while, but still had a genuine smile on her face. They had nowhere to go, and that tugged at her heart, she had to help them. I'm Tsunade Senju. I never thought I'd say this, but from now on, we're family. Tsunade said, stood from her chair, held out her arms, sighed and waved them in for the hugs she knew were coming. Standing by the fireplace as usual, Tsunade found herself once again thinking about what had happened. It's been 3 months since Shizune died, and 2 months since she'd remade Gato's former home and named it after herself and Shizune. She only had one thing to do in Wave before heading back to Konoha, finish the monument to her former apprentice, friend and surrogate daughter. She watched her adopted family file in after cleaning up the breakfast dishes. Shizune had always wanted a family, and now she'd give anything if Shizune could be here to share it with her. Despite the fact she'd given up drinking and gambling, she still felt like absolute garbage for what she'd done and what her stupidity had cost her. Tsunade pushed down her emotions, there was work to do. 9:47 a.m., the bridge. He watched her walk out onto the water like it was solid ground, which even after almost 3 months still amazed him, especially because in her right hand was a 10 feet thick, 200 feet long log that had to weigh 100 tons at least. It'd take the whole town to even lift without a crane, and she tossed them around like firewood. Right there Tsunade, as deep as the other one. Tsunade yelled down to her, saw her nod and drove it into the ground like a tent stake, then like she did the others, used a jutsu on it that would preserve it and protect it from damage and rotting. He wouldn't be half this far into construction if not for Tsunade and her girls. Construction ninja he'd called them. If he had a permanent crew trained in construction jutsu he'd be rich. She'd told him her grandfather could create wood with a jutsu, a clan ability she called it. When he'd asked if she could do it her face had gone dead and she just walked away. He wasn't stupid enough to press her on it. Whatever she was hiding was connected to a mountain of rage and or pain similar to what she'd unleashed on Gato and he didn't want to upset her, she'd suffered enough. April 1st 11:00 am, the bridge. After listening to the mayor make a short speech, Tsunade almost lost her composure when he cut the ribbon and officially opened the Great Shizune Bridge. She just wanted to fall to the ground and cry like a baby, but at the same time was filled with pride. Her adopted family weren't as dignified, especially the girls. Mei just let a few tears fall then wiped them away before they were seen and cheered with the others, not as loudly though. She thanked everyone for everything, told Tsunade he could use the west wing of the mansion as headquarters for his business and the staff to keep it clean while they were gone. Made sure everyone was packed up and they left. August 1st, 8:26 a.m., 2 miles from Konoha. Remember what I said, girls, no jutsu, keep your emotions under control, especially you two, Fu, to Yuya. And I'll only say this once to Yuya. No, fighting. You do. And I'll beat your ass so bad you literally won't be able to sit for a month. Understood? Tsunade said sternly. To Yuya nodded. Hi, Tsunade-chan. And I really am sorry about what I did to that girl in. Forget it, to Yuya. I told you I forgave you. And I healed her anyway, so stop apologizing for defending Fu. Tsunade said. It was funny though, with her butt. Mei said, smiling. Mei. Tsunade interrupted. The girls giggled. Well, it was. Mei said calmly, a subtle apologetic tone in her voice for Tsunade. Shizune's behind this somehow. I know she is. Tsunade grumbled. Come on. Bunch pf ungrateful little bitches. Tsunade grumbled playfully. Mei and the girls glanced at each other and giggled quietly at the now familiar rant and followed her, all smiling like idiots. 8:54 a.m., Konoha main gate. They stopped in front of the guard station and she held out her papers and ID card. Tsunade and 4 guests. I need to see the old man. Now, Tsunade said calmly, and put a dangerous edge in her voice when she said, now. Kotetsu took her papers and ID nervously. He'd never met her in person, but every shinobi in Konoha from Chunin rank up knew who she was and what she could do, especially if you pissed her off. He checked for the special codes and marks, found them, and noticed the departure date was over 5 years ago. Welcome back, Lady Su, Kotetsu said. Don't call me that, Tsunade interrupted coldly. Just Tsunade, or Tsunade-san if you have to be formal. Tsunade said, then reached out, grabbed his collar and glared at him, her face stone cold dead. Spread this around, because I will not repeat myself. If anyone calls me that again, I'll kill him. Do you understand me? Tsunade said. Kotetsu had never seen a cold rage this intense in his life. She wasn't bluffing, she was dead serious. Hi, Tsunade-san. Hi, the other man said, but wasn't hiding his fear as well as Kotetsu. Tsunade released him. Notify him he'll have guests, do not tell him who. Oh, and my friends aren't from here. If they have any trouble, and I mean any trouble, I'll be personally offended and react accordingly. Tsunade said, took her papers and card back, put him away and headed for the tower, her family following quietly, Mei in back as rear guard. Damn, she wasn't exaggerating, they really fucked her up whatever they did to her beyond what little she told me. She was ready to kill them. Mei thought, as she'd made that same mistake and would never do so again. Tsunade told her, very bluntly, that if she ever did or said certain things, that she'd look back on being beaten and by Gato and his men as a precious memory. She'd seen what Tsunade could do and wasn't going to risk it. What she hadn't told anyone was the effect that confrontation had on her, besides Tsunade earning her full respect and loyalty. 9:26 a.m., Hokage Tower, waiting room. She looked up from her desk when the hall door opened. She'd seen everyone from obnoxious civilians, to Anko Mitarashi in a near rage, to the fire daimyo and barely flinched, but when this person walked in her heart skipped a beat in fear. Their presence alone filled the room. It wasn't anger, it was like a force of nature. Tsunade of the Sanin, she said nervously. Even across the room she felt like a hand was crushing her throat. The look on Tsunade's face was of someone looking for a reason to literally unleash hell and wash the world clean of everything and everyone. Tsunade stopped in front of her desk, looked at her, and she nearly pissed her panties. I want to see him, now. Tsunade said, her voice stone cold dead. She nodded and hit the talk button on the intercom. Hokage-sama, your guests are here and wish to see you immediately. Send them in, came from the intercom. Tsunade led her surrogate family to the door, opened it and walked in. The shock almost showed on his face when he saw one of his former pupils enter followed by a beautiful redhead and 3 girls. He waited until she stopped in front of his desk. Nice to see you again, Tsunade, you look well. Sarutobi said calmly, ignoring the look on her face announcing she didn't want to be there. He also noticed her apprentice wasn't present, not a good sign. Shizune's dead, because I screwed up, Tsunade said with a sad edge in her voice. I'm sorry to hear that. Why did you return? Sarutobi said calmly. Tsunade sighed heavily. I came back for several reasons, the main reason is them. As much as I hate this damn place, it was still a good place to grow up. Another reason is I'm going to correct my mistakes and keep some promises to some old friends. I'm going to clean this place up and get rid of the garbage destroying it. I can do it with you. Or I can go through you. Anyone that gets in my way, I'll kill, so don't force me to deprive Konoha of any good shinobi. She said and saw him nod sadly. I'll only ask once, and I don't want any bullshit about laws or the council. I know this place too well. I know they shit all over his final request. Where is my godson? He looked at Tsunade, he could see it in her eyes. He was glad he didn't have to say he was dead because she'd destroyed Konoha and kill everyone in it. He took a key from his pocket, unlocked his bottom drawer, leafed through it a moment and pulled out the biggest folder, nearly 2 inches thick, and sat it on his desk in front of her. That's my personal file on him. It will tell you everything you need to know. I've done everything I can for him, but I'm sorry to say it wasn't enough. I assume you'll want a full council meeting? Yes, if the Senju estate is still there. Good, that's where we'll be. Tomorrow morning at 8, by then I know word will have spread about me being back. Oh, if he's here or close enough. I want that perverted old teammate of mine Jiraiya there. I don't care how, but if he's close enough, make it happen. Meantime, this file is coming with me. I don't like how it looks, so I'll read it later. Oh, I want your best John in watching him, if anything happens to him before I get to meet him. I will be very upset. Tsunade said, picked up the folder, half turned and stopped. This is Mei Terumi of Mist Country, Conan of Rain Country, Fu of Waterfall Country and Tayuya of Rice Country. They're my family, and anyone that attempts to hurt them or take them from me, I'll kill without any hesitation or mercy. Tsunade said coldly, turned and led her slightly shaken family out of the office. Once they were gone and his door shut, Hiruzen Sarutobi, 3rd Hokage of Fire Country, a man as well known for his ability to stay calm in any situation as he was for his knowledge of jutsu, cried, as much for what had become of his former pupil as he was for what he knew was going to happen. And there was nothing he could do but stay out of her way until she calmed down. 10 a.m., Northeast Konoha, Senju Estate. Okay girls, here we are. It's a little dusty in here, so I wanted Kunoichi cleaned inside and out, and I mean all the bedrooms too, not just your room. Mei and Conan, inside. Tayuya and Fu, outside. One of the rooms has a sign on the door that says, "No grown-ups, you are not to enter that room or even open the door, I'll handle that room personally. The first room to the right of it is my old bedroom, clean it, but no searching, reaching, peeking. And definitely no playing with anything in there. Oh, if you find a locked door, move on, I'll handle it later. Breaking either rule will earn you an A- rank punishment, understood?" Tsunade said very sternly. "Hi, Tsunade-chan," all 4 said together. "Time?" Conan asked. Tayuya glared at her a moment then sighed. 3 floors, at least 10,000 square feet as I recall. Finish by noon and I'll let each of you pick something from the mission book." Tsunade said and smiled. The girls cheered and ran off to start. Mei stayed. "Are you sure you want to clean his room? I could do it for you." Mei said. "No, I have to do this myself, and you know why, so please drop it, Mei." Tsunade said a little sadly. "I'm here if you need me, Tsunade." Mei said then headed for the stairs. Tsunade looked down at her necklace and sighed sadly. 12 p.m., main hall. "You finished every room?" Tsunade said calmly, looking at the first 2 in line. "Hi, except 5 rooms. The one you said not to go in, the other 4 were locked." Conan said. "And the outside?" Tsunade said, looking at the other 2 girls. "Clean. I did make a few birds mad though." Tayuya said and smiled apologetically. "And clean," Fu said happily, then giggled. "Shut up, grasshead. They didn't dive at you." Tayuya said the saw Tsunade's glare. "Sorry, Fu-chan." Fu hugged her. Tsunade smirked in amusement then reached into her pocket, pulled out a small brown book and flipped through it a moment before stopping on the page she wanted. "What would you say was the difficulty of this mission?" "B rank," Tayuya said strongly, then heard the slight cough from Tsunade and sighed sadly. "Okay, low C rank." Fu giggled. "Tayuya. New jutsu, 1 hour spar or 2 hours of flute?" Tsunade said. Tayuya fidgeted a few moments. "Flute," Tayuya exclaimed. With her free right Tsunade reached into the left side, inside her gray shirt, pulled out a steel flute and handed it to Hyuga. Fu. New jutsu, 1 hour of special playtime, or sister time with Hyuga while she practices? Tsunade said. Sister time, Fu exclaimed happily. Oh, that's a surprise, Mei said dryly. Konan. New jutsu or 2 hours special training? Tsunade said. Training. I have a new fold I want to try. Konan said. Mei. Training or personal time? Tsunade said. Personal time, Mei said. Okay, dismissed, Tsunade said and smiled as the girls rushed off. Second floor master suite, right? Oh yeah, that tub looks heavenly. See ya in 2 hours. Mei said with a big smile and headed for the stairs. Enjoy yourself, and seal the room first. Tsunade said then smirked briefly. I might as well get this over with now. After getting her personal bag from her things, Mei went to the second floor master suite, shut and locked the door, then sound sealed the room. She set her bag on the marble sink counter, then slipped off her blue dress, letting it slide down her body to the floor. Carefully folding it up, she set it aside. Next off was her light blue sports bra. She sighed contentedly when her FF cup S flopped to her chest, and laid it on her dress. Slipping her thumbs in the waist, she slid her see-through purple silk panties down her legs, carefully stepped out of them and set them on her clothes. Mei ran her right hand slowly through the large, thick growth of red hair covering her mound, then down to her plump, but baby smooth lips. I'm getting a little shaggy down there. But why bother trimming it? It's not like anyone wants to get between my legs, unfortunately. I'm a cage-level kunoichi for Kami's sake, so why can't I say those 4 little words? I love you, Tsunade. I don't even know if she's bi, much less willing to try. Oh Kami, I'm pathetic. Hot water started to fill the large soaking tub. Once the bottom was covered with water, several liquids were poured in and mixed. By the lightly churning it was half full, the water was turned off. Smiling, Mei grabbed the last bottle and poured some into the water, then put it away. Almost ready, Mei said, then stepped in, moaned at the feel of the warm water, then sat down and stretched out. Once comfortable, she flashed through a series of hand signs and held the last sign. Boiling style. Burning steam breath. Mei said, took a deep breath and blow a cone of superheated steam down into the water, heating it to near boiling before she stopped, the water lightly bubbling, which activated the bubble bath she'd added. Mei blew out a little steam then smiled. Oh yes, now it's perfect, Mei said in a lusty, breathy voice, then sank in up to her chin, laid her head hack on the side and closed her eyes, enjoying the very relaxing heat soaking into her body, cleansing her skin and relaxing her muscles. Senju Estate, backyard. Hyuga smiled after blowing a single note on her flute. This is a good spot, go ahead Fu-chan. Fu nodded, looked around almost nervously a moment, took a breath, called up her emotions like Tsunade had shown her, and clenching her fists tightly, dropped to her knees and hit the ground hard with both hands as she let out a small scream. 10 feet in front of her a large boulder rose out of the ground about 4. Hyuga ran over, helped Fu up and hugged her. That was awesome Fu-chan, I wish I could do that. Thanks, you're the best sister ever. Hyuga said happily. Fu smiled proudly and hugged her back. Thank you Tae-chan. Hyuga got up on the rock and sat down, the groove in the top basically like a seat. She raised the end of the flute to her mouth, held from the left, and started to play. Fu sat in the grass about 4 feet in front of the rock and listened. 3rd floor sunroom. She'd practiced doing it with paper until she had it down, every fold and tuck memorized. I can do this, I've separated before, just never into this many pieces. I can do this, I'm ready. Konan said, focused her mind on what she was doing, everything else was pushed out of her mind. She raised her arms at her sides up to eyes level, released and divided her chakra. She saw and felt it start at her hands, then her arms, her upper body and head, the rest of her body she felt disperse, and in an odd way saw herself disperse into exactly 100 paper butterflies. She flew 2 laps around the room, then landed where she'd started and in the reverse of what she did, reformed from the feet up, turning back into flesh from paper, finally ending with her hands reforming. Using her chakra and the technique she created herself after discovering her ability, scanned herself, she was intact. Yes, Konan said excitedly, then composed herself. Hokage Tower. Thank you for coming immediately. I have a special mission for you. Officially it's an A- rank mission, but not because the mission itself is dangerous, it will most likely be boring, At least I hope so. Until I personally relieve you tomorrow morning. You're to shadow and protect Naruto Uzumaki. Sarutobi said, then sighed sadly as his face went cold. By any means necessary. He's not to be harmed in any way. He opened his eyes wide in shock, but only the right was visible. Is the seal weakening? Kakashi said. Nothing that easy. I don't know if you heard yet, but Tsunade is back. Her apprentice was killed because of a mistake she made and it's tearing her apart. She has a woman and 3 girls with her she adopted as a surrogate family and intends to add Naruto to it. She told me flat out she intends to, as she put it, remove the garbage destroying Konoha, and anyone that tries to stop her or threatens her family in any way. She'll kill without mercy. She said she can do this with me, or she'll go through me. I'm calling for a full council meeting at 8 tomorrow morning at her request. You know who she'll go after first. The third said emotionlessly. Kakashi nodded. Is she really that mad? Kakashi asked, almost nervous. Hi, I've never seen her like this. He's in the clearing near training ground too. Dismissed, Sarutobi said. Kakashi nodded and vanished. As I'm sure many of you have heard, Tsunade has returned and requested this full council meeting. Sarutobi said, then nodded to the Anbu by the door who opened it. Tsunade walked in. Her ki immediately hit every shinobi in the room like a fist. The civilians paled in fear. She stopped in front of the podium, glanced at Jiraiya standing to his left, then looked at her former sensei. Do I have your full authority? Sarutobi sighed, pulled a scroll from his robe and held it up. Hi, do what needs to be done. I'll back you fully. He said. Tsunade smiled. Thank you, Sarutobi-sama. Tsunade said, nodded, then turned to the council. Her smile now had a very obvious edge of sadistic pleasure to it she knew they saw. First I want to tell everyone I have several issues with Konoha, this council in particular, concerning the treatment of Naruto Uzumaki. Starting with the clan heads. Tsunade said and turned toward them. Sume Inuzuka stood, tense but not doing anything that'd be considered threatening. Sit down, Sume. I don't have any issues with the Inuzuka clan. Unless you have something against Naruto. In which case I will spay you, bitch. Tsunade said, the last part coldly. Sume clenched her fists and jaw a moment, then relaxed. I have no issues with Naruto or you, Tsunade. Sume said, then sat down. Good. Because I do have an issue with you, Hiyashi. Tsunade said, turned to and pointed at him, her voice full of anger. Hiyashi stood sharply. You have no. Shut up. Tsunade roared very powerfully, full of rage. Hiyashi subtly paled. He knew that look on her face. She was looking for any reason to kill him. I've done nothing to him. Hiyashi said calmly, his composure restored, at least on the surface. Oh really? I read several documents last night that say otherwise. Shall I name legal actions you supported that put Naruto in an orphanage and denied him even the smallest rights everyone else takes for granted? Tsunade asked in a frighteningly calm voice. The other clan heads turned and glared at Hiyashi. Oh, I forgot to mention that those same actions put money in your pocket and increased your influence. Tsunade said. And what do you intend to do with this information you claim to have? Hiyashi asked calmly. That depends. How's Hana doing? I understand she's 3 months pregnant. The nurses I talked to this morning when I dropped by the hospital were very cooperative. Tsunade said casually, then smiled slightly at his reaction. You will leave her out of this. Hiyashi almost yelled. We'll discuss that at the end of this meeting. Assuming you're still here and alive. Now to my real issue with this council, and the source of most of the problems I'll be dealing with momentarily. Danzo. Tsunade said, practically spitting out his name. Danzo smirked, before throwing around accusations. Do you have proof I've committed any crimes? He said calmly. I don't have any documents, no. Tsunade said while frowning and saw him smile. If you have no proof then this meeting is over. Danzo said. I didn't say I had no proof, I said I have no documents. Please come in, Tsunade said, the last part loudly. A moment later the door opened and 2 people walked in and over to Tsunade. I believe everyone here knows Kurenai Yuhi and Enko Mitarashi. I ran into them this morning and asked them to assist me in a small test. As you know, Kurenai is the foremost expert in Fire Country on Genjutsu. Now, as everyone knows, the rules for council meetings are clearly defined and can't be altered in any way, by anyone, and one of those rules has been broken for years. If you would, Kurenai. Tsunade said. Kurenai stepped out into the middle of the room, closed her and made a hand sign. She didn't move for 20 seconds as she focused her chakra, then opened her red eyes. Kai! Kurenai yelled powerfully. Around the room 18 hidden Anbu were revealed as the genjutsu hiding them was dispelled. A smile suddenly on her face. Anko's arms blurred as she buried a kunai in the chest or head of everyone. They fell to the floor dead. Everyone but Danzo, Tsunade, Kurenai and Anko gasped in shock. I had a feeling you'd do something like this, you old warhawk. Thank you for your help. I believe if you'll check them, sensei, each of them will have a root tattoo, which I believe you disbanded before I left. Tsunade said. You stupid, weak-minded bitch. Die! Danzo yelled in rage as he stood. Tsunade was genuinely surprised at how fast Danzo moved, especially when he pulled and threw a kunai at her. She barely managed to dodge. Sarutobi didn't. The blood drained from her face when the kunai pierced his chest. Without a shinobi nanosecond of thought or hesitation, she rushed to his side, crashing through the furniture like it wasn't there, catching him and laid him on the floor. She yanked out the kunai and at a speed that truly defied description flashed through a long series of hand signs, before throwing her glowing green hands at his chest for her most powerful healing jutsu. The room was dead silent for a few moments, before a booming male voice said 3 words so filled with power the walls cracked. That voice belonged to Jiraiya. Burning Thunder Rasengan. Jiraiya screamed as he crossed the room in the blink of an eye, his right hand extended, palm forward, and in the hand was a 16 inches swirling ball of blue chakra, fire and lightning, that he drove into Danzo's chest. Danzo screamed as he was engulfed in a maelstrom of fire, lightning and wind that tore his body to shreds as he was burned to ash. Everyone around Danzo leapt back, eyes wide in shock and horror. Jiraiya watched as even Danzo's bones turned to ash, a big smile on his face. He took out a scroll with his left, sealed the ash in it, then with a sadistic smile burned the scroll to ash, leaving only paper ash on the floor. He immediately ran back to Tsunade. How is he? Will he live? Jiraiya said, deeply concerned. Tsunade glanced at him a moment. He knew instantly she'd break every rule in existence to save him. He stood. He'll live, I guarantee it. Damn right he will, Tsunade said, never taking her eyes off her sensei or pausing for an instant. I want Homura and Kaharu arrested for conspiring with Danzo against Konoha, the 3rd and 4th Hokage, breaking the 3rd Hokage's law concerning Naruto Uzumaki, and multiple attempts to murder Naruto. Tsunade said coldly. Jiraiya blurred in front of the 2 senior advisors, a big sadistic grin on his face. Please resist, Jiraiya said, almost begging them. The room suddenly filled with Anbu. 2 were standing next to everyone. Danzo attacked Sarutobi. I'm closing the wound now, he'll make a full recovery. Tsunade said. Where's Danzo? The dragon-masked captain said. Dead, Jiraiya killed him, there's no body. Tsunade said emotionlessly, then smiled. You okay, Sarutobi-sensei? Sitting up with a grunt he glanced around. This is why I retired. I'm too old for this shit. Sarutobi said with a smirk. Jiraiya broke out in deep, booming laughter. I'll confirm what happened, Shikaku Nara said as he stood. Shibi Aburame stood. As will I, so will I, Sume Inuzuka said fiercely as she stood. Me too, Choza Akamichi said as he stood. I will too, Inoichi Yamanaka said as he stood. I'll confirm it, Fugaku Uchiha said then stood. Hiyashi stood. I'll confirm it as well. Anyone else? Tsunade? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade glanced at Hiyashi a moment, saw a subtle nod and smiled. No, that's everyone that needs to be taken away, Tsunade said and looked at the remaining council. Isn't that right? Tsunade said firmly. The council members glanced at each other, knowing exactly what Tsunade was doing. Their spokesman stood. That's correct, the situation has been handled. You can take them away and have these bodies removed. They'll have a root tattoo on them. Please check all Anbu members and arrest anyone with that mark as a traitor. The Anbu looked at Sarutobi, who nodded, then they immediately obeyed. Dear Kami, there's no way we could beat the Hokage and 2 Sannin. Especially not Tsunade in the mood she's in. And it looks like she's going to accomplish our goal for us, and I won't have to risk a single Uchiha life. I think there's hope for Konoha yet. Fugaku Uchiha thought then smiled slightly. 18 minutes later. Tsunade looked around the room with a smile at the expressions on everyone's face after they were told who Naruto's father was, then her proposal. Any objections to lifting the law or Tsunade's proposal? Sarutobi said, still a little sore but nothing he couldn't handle. No one said a word or raised a hand. Then it's done, I'll have the paperwork filed within the hour. Tsunade. Kakashi, you're to bring Naruto to my office at 9:30 then stay for the meeting, do not be late. Sarutobi said. I wouldn't think of it Hokage-sama, we'll be there. Kakashi said then vanished. Dismissed. Sarutobi said. Everyone but Sarutobi, Jiraiya, Tsunade and Hiashi were gone 5 minutes later. Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. I know what you want to ask Tsunade Haim. I swore I'd never use it. Even on him, but for that bastard I made an exception. By the way, my right arm is numb and my hand is smoking a little, would you mind? Jiraiya said with a smirk. Tsunade stepped up to Jiraiya and looked up at him. What you did almost makes up for every stupid, perverted, annoying thing you ever did to me, almost. I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I have to or my conscience will bother me. Tsunade said, sighed sadly, then reached up, pulled Jiraiya's head down and planted a kiss on his lips for a full 10 seconds then released him. You make one perverted comment or even attempt to read anything into that and I swear I'll castrate you. That was only for what you just did for our former sensei and for old time's sake, nothing else. Understood? Grinning like an idiot, Jiraiya nodded. Stand still while I heal your arm. Don't make me regret doing this for you. Tsunade said. Kiss me again and you can cut it off for all I care. Jiraiya said. Tsunade stopped her hands and looked up at him. Don't tempt me, pervert. That's super pervert, and I had to ask. Thank you Tsunade. I mean it, Jiraiya said sincerely. Tsunade smiled, nodded and started healing his arm. Okay Hiashi, what do you want? You didn't stay for the conversation. I want to apologize by inviting you and Naruto to dinner tonight at 6. I know Hana would like to see you again. I want to make up for dishonoring their memory and myself. He was my friend too. Hiashi said then bowed. 2 miracles in one day. Now I've seen everything. Jiraiya said. If I can bring the rest of my family, I'll accept. Tsunade said while she continued healing Jiraiya's arm. Agreed. Please be there by 5:30, casual formal attire. Hiashi said, turned and left. He almost seemed to be a real person. Maybe if you do to him what you did to me at your 18th birthday party. Jiraiya said. Tsunade stopped, stood straight and looked at him. Don't ruin my good mood and make me hurt you. You're about to lose what little respect you just earned. And if you tell me you enjoyed that, I will cut this arm off and you'll never get within 100 feet of Naruto. Jiraiya dropped the smile. He deserves to know what I can teach him, and you know you can't help him like I can. I don't care if you hate me, but I'm his godparent too. You want to hurt me, fine, but don't you dare deny Naruto his full inheritance just to spite me because I have just as much right to raise Naruto as you do. You'd be spitting on their graves and you know it. Jiraiya said in a very serious tone. You're right, I let our history get in the way. I'm sorry, you're one of the few people that understands what I'm feeling. Tsunade said. Jiraiya turned to Sarutobi. Did she just apologize to me or have I taken one too many hits? Hi, I heard it too. I'm glad you still know how to smile Tsunade. I miss that. Now if you children are done fighting, finish healing his arm, then we have a very difficult meeting to prepare for. Sarutobi said. Word. Jiraiya said. Fashizi Manizi. Tsunade said. What? Sarutobi said, totally confused. Tsunade went back to healing Jiraiya's arm as both started laughing. 9:28 a.m., Hokage Tower. But I didn't do anything wrong, honest I didn't. Naruto said, reluctantly walking with the masked, one-eyed Jonin behind him, pushing him forward towards the old man's door. I told you, you aren't in trouble. He just wants to talk to you and has some people he wants you to meet. Kakashi said, doing his best to reassure the scared little boy. But, everyone hates me. Naruto said nervously. I don't hate you, he doesn't hate you. Or do you think he lets everyone call him old man? And does he treat everyone to ramen a couple times a month? Kakashi said. Naruto stopped. No, just me. Has he ever done anything to hurt you, or had you meet someone that hates you? Kakashi asked and saw Naruto shake his head. So what's the problem then, or are you just afraid? Naruto turned and glared at him. I'm not scared. Naruto exclaimed then marched to the door opened it and stormed in. Kakashi resisted his urge to laugh and followed Naruto in. Kid had guts, he'd give him that. Who are they? Naruto said, pointing to the two old people. Two of my former apprentices, both are legendary shinobi now, they're known as the Sannin. Jiraiya the Toad Sage, a legendary seal master. And Tsunade Senju, granddaughter of the first and second Hokages that founded Konoha and the top medical ninja in the world. Sarutobi said as he pointed to each and they nodded. Naruto stared at them in awe. Tsunade subtly glanced at Sarutobi a moment for his nod. Naruto, please sit down, we have some very important things to tell you. Tsunade said gently and waited for him to take the seat, then stepped up and knelt in front of him. Naruto. We knew your parents and I'm going to tell you who they were. Naruto's face lit up with excitement, but before he could say anything she put her finger over his lips. Please don't say anything until I'm done. I'll tell you more when you're older, but your mother was a very good friend of mine. She was from a very powerful clan in Whirlpool Country and her name was Kushina Uzumaki. Your last name is from her to protect you. The reason you have her name and not your father's is because of who he was. You see, your father was Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage of Konoha. The guy on the mountain, was my dad? Naruto said blankly, the shock was almost too much for him to physically handle. Hi, do you know how he died? Tsunade said. Sure, everyone does. He killed the monster that attacked Konoha, but he died too. Naruto said, even at his age and with no family he knew that story. How he did it is why everyone treats you like they do, and I hate doing this. But I can't tell you that yet, you'll have to trust me, but I promise I will tell you when I think you're old enough to handle it. I'm telling you this because it's why I'm here. Jiraiya and I are your godparents, chosen by your parents because we were their close friends, practically family, and I'm very sorry we weren't here for you until now. I could explain why but you wouldn't understand, but I'll tell you that later too. I came back because I want to adopt you. Tsunade said and got genuinely nervous. Sarutobi watched intently as Naruto looked at both of them. He could clearly read every emotion that crossed Naruto's face. The strongest repeating emotions were anger, obviously for not being there for him from the start, and shock that someone wanted to adopt him as their own. Please don't be mad. I'll make it up to you, I promise you. Just please give me a chance. You'd have 3 sisters, 2 your age and 1 that's older, plus a new friend of mine who'd be like an aunt. I picked them up about 3 months ago, and though not legal yet, they're my adopted family. I want you to be part of it. Oh, and Jiraiya too. He's like a family friend we don't really like too much, but he's fun to have around sometimes. Tsunade said with a big smile. Gee, thanks for making me feel welcome. Jiraiya said mildly annoyed, then smiled. She really likes me, she just won't admit it. He's crazy too. Tsunade said with a playful smile, holding in a laugh. So, we'd be a real family. Would you train me to be a ninja like you? Naruto said, getting excited. Hi, by the time you graduate from the academy you'll be smart, strong, respected. Tsunade said, and irresistible to girls. Jiraiya interrupted. Trust me, by then you'll be into girls. Tsunade clenched her jaw a moment then sighed. What do you say, Naruto, can I be your adopted mother? She said nervously. Naruto thought about it a few moments. You promise you'll tell me everything when I'm older? Naruto asked and she nodded. That was all he needed. Leapt off the seat and hugged her. Deal, Naruto exclaimed. I belong in there somewhere too. I was Minato's apprentice and your mom's friend. Kakashi said. Uchiha compound. Makoto Uchiha almost screamed when she was hugged from behind, then relaxed and smiled. Not that I mind. But why are you in a good mood all of a sudden? What got rid of that grump I've been seeing for the last couple weeks? Is this about what you wanted to talk to me about that was so important? Makoto said. Oh, that. Turns out it wasn't important after all. I was worried about nothing, so don't expect to get much sleep tonight. Fugaku said, then kissed her neck and walked out of the room. Mei, Konan, Tayuya, Fu. I have some important announcements. About a half hour ago I finished a meeting with the Hokage and the council. Then I had a private meeting with the Hokage, my former teammate Jiraiya, and the son of 2 very close friends that died about 5 years ago when he was born. I adopted him. You girls have a brother. Tsunade said calmly, but slightly nervous. She wasn't sure how they'd react. Tell me what you think about this, and be honest. Tsunade said, watching intently. Konan was surprised, then after a moment of thought smiled. I like the idea of having a little brother. Tsunade smiled at her. I don't know if I want a boy here, but I'll give him a chance. And I'll have someone to fight. I mean spar with, Hyuga said. Tsunade gently glared at the little red-haired girl, currently trying too hard to smile innocently. Is he older than me? Fu said. Younger, by about 5 months. His birthday is October 10th. Tsunade said. Fu thought a few moments, her face scrunched up, then she half smiled. So I'd have a lil brother? Fu said excitedly. Yes, so would Hyuga-chan, but only because his birthday is near the end of the year, not the start like the rest of you. Except Mei whose is in the middle of the year. But she doesn't count, Tsunade said, her smile returning. Fu yelled excitedly. I want to meet him, is he here? In a minute Fu-chan. Mei, what do you say? Wanna be an aunt? Tsunade said with a smirk. Big sister. Mei said calmly to Tsunade, gently glaring at her. Okay, so what do you say, baby? Tsunade said, still smirking. Goo goo gaga. Mei said with a smirk. The girls broke out laughing. Tsunade clenched her jaw a moment, she could almost hear Shizune laughing. Tsunade shut her eyes a moment, took a deep breath and let it out. Glad to hear that, and we'll talk later. He's in the living room, we stopped at his old place on the way and packed up his things. Tsunade said, then lead them into the living room and to the couch where he was sitting, nervous. He popped to his feet when he saw them. Girls, introduce yourselves. Fu, I'm 6. Fu said nervously but excitedly with a small smile and nod. Naruto smiled and nodded back. Hyuga, I'm 6. Hyuga said, doing her best to look intimidating. Naruto just smiled at her, he knew what she was doing, he'd met kids like her before, boys and girls. Conan, I'm 10, so I'm in charge of you. Conan said with a small smile. Naruto smiled broadly. Good luck with that. Mei held in her laughter, but it was still heard, and her S jiggled under her shirt as she laughed. Mei, how old I am is none of your business. Mei said in a friendly, but firm way. Naruto laughed a moment then nodded. Naruto Uzumaki, 5, he exclaimed proudly. Tsunade sighed. Now that you've all met, we've been invited to dinner at the Hyuga estate by the clan head, Hiyashi. Everyone will be on their best behavior tonight or I will be very upset. Tsunade said very firmly as she glared at the girls and Mei, who nodded immediately. They knew she was serious, then turned to Naruto. As for you Naruto, you're getting a bath, a good lunch, then I'm taking you to get new clothes, then the rest of the day we'll spend getting you aquatinted with everyone, learning the rules of the house, and teaching you some manners for tonight. Got it? Tsunade said firmly, glaring at him. Yeah, so, where's my room? Naruto asked. 12:22 p.m., Business District. Tsunade was struggling to hold in her emotions, she pretended not to see the looks they were giving Naruto when they thought she wasn't looking. She wasn't going to do anything yet, but she did memorize every face that looked at the son of 2 of the best friends she ever had. As she was thinking about what she'd like to do to them, she flashed back to Anko Mitarashi and the chat they had that morning. The recently promoted special Jonin, despite only being in her mid-teens, was probably one of the few in Konoha that could understand what she, Mei and Naruto had been through, mainly due to who her former sensei was and that she was also an orphan and large parts of her memory were missing. Also due to her own former teammate, another reason she had to kill that bastard. Here we are, this is a dress store, Naruto said, slightly panicked. Tsunade laughed. No Naruto, this is a clothing store for shinobi only. I haven't been here in over 5 years, but I knew this would be here. The owner is an old friend of mine, and before you say anything about her being an old lady like you did me, remember this. She's one of my best friends, she was also one of your parents' best friends, she used to be a Jonin. Tsunade said then gave him a sadistic smile. She's an expert with needles and will be fitting your clothes, so unless you want to be her pincushion. Naruto's eyes got big as saucers, he hated needles, he wasn't afraid of them, but he didn't want them in him if he could avoid it. Okay, I'll be nice, I promise. Tsunade smiled. I knew you were a smart boy. You just remember what I told you about how to treat a lady, regardless of her age, and you'll be fine. Or I'll do to your butt what I did to that tree stump. Tsunade said with a smile. Naruto paled slightly as he remembered her small demonstration earlier. The sight of her spanking that tree stump into the ground, out of sight, was something he did not want to experience. He nodded hard. Tsunade smiled. Nothing got a point across to, or made a lasting impression on, someone like a demonstration. She lead him in. The ring of the little bell over the door made her smile a little bigger for a moment, then it turned into a devious smirk. "Where's the overdeveloped slut that runs this third-rate sweatshop?" Tsunade yelled angrily. Naruto looked up at Tsunade like she was crazy. Was this a trap? "I'm overdeveloped? If your tits were any bigger you'd have shinobi living on them. The village hidden in the cleavage." Hotaru yelled back just before she came onto view of her old friend, then froze in horror, clapping her hands over her mouth, eyes big as saucers as she stared at the small blonde boy standing next to Tsunade. No, 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 no. Hotaru said as she started slowly shaking her head. "Go to the left side and look for something you like and mind your own business. I'll be there in a minute." Tsunade commanded, saw him nod and dash off. She stepped close to Hotaru, her expression of a comforting best friend. "Relax, Hotaru-chan, please, it's okay." Hotaru looked into her old friend's eyes a few moments, then slowly lowered her hands, but she didn't relax much. "Is he yours?" Hotaru asked carefully. "Not by blood, but I did adopt him, though it isn't official yet." "He's there, son," Tsunade said, putting extra emphasis on there. Hotaru looked at her a moment, then nearly gasped when she realized who Tsunade meant. "The law doesn't apply in this case, he knows. Besides, by tomorrow night the entire village will too. That law has been lifted. He's going to make a public announcement tomorrow morning telling everyone who his parents were." Tsunade said. "What about?" Hotaru said. Tsunade knew from her expression what she meant. "That's still a secret, as is the part of the law concerning it. At least for now. When he turns 12 I'll tell him. Maybe 10 if I think he can handle it. Assuming nothing happens to force the issue sooner than that." "Look, I'm sorry, but I didn't think you'd react like that. I thought you'd know who he was already. Everyone else in this damned village seems to." Tsunade said, a little anger in her voice at the last part. Hotaru nodded and mostly relaxed. "So, you're here to get him new clothes?" she asked, a little hope on her face and in her voice. Tsunade smirked. She knew that expression very well. "I also have a female friend and 3 unofficial daughters. We have a semi-formal dinner with Hiyashi tonight. Money isn't a problem, but please Hotaru, don't sink your claws too deep into my soft spots," Tsunade said with a small smirk. Hotaru smiled broadly and nodded, then glanced around briefly. "Where's your apprentice?" Shizune, I think her name is." Sadness overpowered Tsunade's face. "Was," she said, lowering her head slightly. Hotaru suddenly had a big lump in her throat she forced down. "I'm sorry. May I come over tomorrow for dinner? We can catch up properly." Tsunade's smile half returned. "I'd like that. 6 o'clock, Senju Estate. Wear something casual. In fact, if you're free I need a kunoichi favor," Tsunade said with a certain smile she knew Hotaru would recognize. "I'm a little rusty, but for you Tsunade-chan, I'll do it," Hotaru said with a smile. "Now, I believe we have some shopping to do." Tsunade sighed and shook her head in amusement. "Good, maybe I'll try a few things on. I forgot how hot it gets here in August. I'm getting sweaty in places I only touch when I shower," Tsunade thought as she followed Hotaru. 1:30 p.m. "Now that you have casual clothes and several training outfits to try out, that just leaves a formal outfit to try on. Now go change so we can see how it looks. And don't even try to argue, everyone has to have formal clothes for special occasions," Tsunade said, held in her smirk at his pout, then watched him head back into the changing room. She turned to Hotaru when she felt the sudden chakra surge and ki coming from her. "What's wrong?" her face half showing her rage. She let out a breath to calm herself. "When I was checking him a few minutes ago, I asked about the orange jumpsuits he wears. One of the things he told me was that's all he has, as you know, but he got them from a bargain bin and—" Hotaru stopped a moment to close her eyes and take another calming breath. "For a dozen of those outfits, he paid over 300 ryo. It shouldn't have cost more than 30, 40 at most. It isn't even the first time that bastard Kenji has done this to him either. Naruto just doesn't know how badly he's been overcharged," Hotaru said quietly, suppressing her rage. Tsunade clenched her fists hard, cracking all her knuckles. Her eye happened to catch the time on the wall clock and she smiled as an idea formed. "You need a break. Might I suggest lunch with an old friend and her adopted son?" Tsunade said with a devious smile and saw some confusion on Hotaru's face. "Of course I'll be a little late. I have a quick errand to run down the street," Tsunade said and smiled sadistically. Hotaru almost flinched in fear, then caught on and smiled. I'd love to join you for lunch, Tsunade-chan, once we finish up here. 1:53 p.m., Ichiraku Ramen. I hope Tsunade-san isn't going to be too long. I was really looking forward to meeting her. The 12-year Ayame said as she handed Naruto his second bowl of ramen. She'll be here soon. Trust me, nothing short of divine intervention can stop her when it comes to people she cares about. Hotaru said, then looked to her right and smiled at Naruto. Down the street, Tsunade got about 10 steps into the store and stopped as a well-dressed, slightly taller man in his 50s based on his face and gray-streaked black hair, when he came up to her with a big fake smile. Are you Kenji, the owner? Tsunade inquired casually, her top intentionally open more than normal to expose almost a foot of cleavage, a subtle lilt in her voice. She internally smiled as he reacted as she'd hoped. She hadn't done it in years, but was glad her seduction skills hadn't rusted. He nearly lost his composure, his eyes subtly focused on her S. For a civilian he was subtle, she had him right where she wanted him. She stepped close, lightly pressing her huge S against his body. How may I help you? Kenji said, then the blonde hair and blue diamond on her forehead, combined with the huge S, triggered his memory. Tsunade, Kenji said, suddenly screaming as blinding pain filled his mind and obliterated all other thoughts. Tsunade smiled sadistically as she cinched in her crushing grip on his balls. We're going to have a quick chat about Naruto Uzumaki and then you're going to refund everything he ever paid you. Or I'm going to give you a personal demonstration why I'm the most powerful kunoichi walking the planet. Tsunade said coldly, then viciously lifted him up onto his toes by his manhood. 5:24 p.m., outside the Hyuga main gate. Here comes Lady Tsunade in. The right guard said. Are you trying to get killed? The left guard interrupted. Did you forget what she said? Anyone that calls her that she'll kill. The cadet branch member said to the other. The right guard paled noticeably as he remembered what the older cadet branch woman said to them earlier that day. Tsunade's first apprentice called her that, and she was killed recently. Thank you. A minute later she reached the gate. Tsunade and guests for dinner. Tsunade said, noting the guard in front of her looked like he'd just been badly frightened, despite his composure. Hi, Tsunade-san, I'll notify Hiyashi-sama at once. He said, then opened the gate and went in. Mei noticed him as well, and the nervous pause before he said her name. She casually stepped over to the other and leaned in. I saw his reaction as we approached. He almost referred to her as, lady, didn't he? Mei whispered and saw him nod subtly. Then you just saved his life. Mei whispered and returned to Tsunade's side. I was just checking something, nothing to worry about. Tsunade nodded. She soon heard footsteps on the other side of the gate. Remember, best behavior or you'll miss the surprise I have planned for later. The kids all nodded. The gate opened, the guard came out returning to his post as a beautiful Hyuga woman came out and smiled. Hikume? Tsunade said, a smile and minor shock on her face. I haven't seen you since you made Jonin. She nodded. We both were rather busy a few years before. Please follow me, Hiyashi-sama is waiting for you. Hikume said. As they followed her in and across the compound, Mei turned to Tsunade. From what I've heard Hyuga are emotionless, but she was smiling. Is the rumor wrong? Mei whispered. Tsunade smirked. Generally they are, but Hikume is an exception, I'll explain later. Tsunade said quietly. 5:27 p.m., Hyuga main hall. Dear Kami, Mei whispered to herself when she entered the main hall. Tsunade subtly glanced at Mei. I told you she was beautiful. Tsunade whispered to Mei. That's an insult. She's a goddess. Please Kami, let her be by Ual so she can join us after I get Tsunade. Mei thought. Tsunade-chan, it's been far too long. Hana said happily, standing to Hiyashi's right, she held out her arms. Smiling happily she walked over and gave Hana a big hug. I'm so sorry to hear about Shizune. Hana whispered in her ear as she hugged her old friend. Thank you. Tsunade whispered, fought back the tears forming in her eyes, then broke the hug when she was ready. Please, you must introduce me to your family. Something I never thought I'd say to you. Hana said, smiling. You're lucky you're pregnant, Tsunade said with a playful glare. Not on your best day, or did you forget about that day we? Hana said, then Tsunade suddenly put her hand over her mouth. Pushing down her emotions she lowered her hand. We can discuss the old days another time, when the kids aren't around. Tsunade said, pleading to Hana with her eyes. Hana nodded. The older redhead is Mei from Mist. The little redhead is Hyuga, she's 6, the shy girl with the green hair is Fu from Waterfall, also 6. The young lady with the blue hair with the paper flower in it is Konan from Rain, she's 10. And last, but definitely not least, is the newest member of my little family, I'm sure you'd heard of him. Naruto Uzumaki, 5, Tsunade said, pointing to each as she introduced them. A pleasure to meet all of you. Especially you Naruto-kun. Did Tsunade tell you I knew your parents? Hana said, smiling. Naruto nodded and smiled. Yes, will you tell me about him later? I'd love to. But first I want you to meet my precious princess. Hana said, then reached behind herself with her left and gently forced a small girl out from behind her into the open. This is Hinata, she's 4. Say hello to our guests Hinata-chan. Hinata nervously bowed. Hello. Naruto smiled at her. He'd never met anyone that wasn't just more nervous than he was, but looked like she was afraid of him. She definitely seemed nice though, and was pretty like her mom. Don't be scared, we won't hurt you. Tsunade is scary, she beat up a tree earlier and then spanked it right into the ground. You got it easy, she ever spanks me I'll never sit again. Naruto said, smiled then started laughing. Hyuga's face turned red as she held in her laughter, shaking slightly. Hinata giggled briefly, then turned and looked at her parents, almost afraid. Hana started laughing. That sounds like her. Hiyashi even smiled. Go ahead Hinata-chan. Tsunade is a special friend. It's okay to relax. Go ahead Hinata-chan, it's okay for tonight. Hana said in her normal, gentle voice. Hinata nodded, then smiled at them and turned back to Naruto. You're funny. Hinata said almost meekly. 7:16 p.m., dining room. Tsunade looked up at the ceiling and sighed sadly after Naruto let out a very loud, long burp. The whole room was silent. Why are you doing this to me? This is for the drinking, isn't it? I'm sorry. Naruto said sincerely, almost quietly as he looked around, everyone staring at him. As this is my house. Hana said then unleashed a burp that sounded almost like a thunderclap. I've waited years to do that. And don't give me that look Hiyashi, this isn't one of your stuffy meetings, this is Tsunade. A red-faced Hiyashi sighed. Minato did it just to annoy me, and Kushina didn't care. See what you did to me Tsunade. Welcome to my life for the last 10 months. Tsunade said dryly. The girls and Mei started laughing. Naruto fell back off his cushion, holding his stomach and laughing hysterically. I know you can hear me up there Shizune. I give up okay. You win, just stop torturing me and I swear I'll try to relax a little more and have some fun. Some birthday this is. Maybe I should have told them, at least Mei. Tsunade thought, then a moment later she almost leapt to her feet. She'd swear she almost felt a hand on her shoulder where Shizune had last touched her in that warehouse. 5 minutes later, main hall. Thank you for dinner Hiyashi, Hana, the food was excellent, and I'm sorry I was gone so long. I hope we can do this again sometime. Once we're all settled and we could return the favor. Tsunade said. I'd love to Tsunade-chan, thank you. Hana said and hugged Tsunade then Mei. Goodbye Konan, Hyuga, Fu. Naruto-kun. Hinata said with a small smile and little wave. Thanks, bye Hinata-chan, see ya later. Naruto said with his big smile and wave. 8:10 p.m., Senju Estate, living room. So what's the surprise Tsunade, we're all changed. Did that person at the door earlier bring ya something? Naruto said, getting a little excited at the thought of a gift. Leaning against the wall next to the closed door to the guest room attached did. Tsunade smiled deviously, which made Naruto and the girls nervous, including Mei. No, Tsunade said and knocked on the door. A few moments later it opened and when a woman walked out everyone gasped. She wore an orange-trimmed, pine-green gi. On the back was the image of a metal kimono in front of 2 crossed needles. It was tied around her waist with a wide black obi like Tsunade's, and like the blonde Sanin her top was working hard to contain her huge S. Below it were navy blue kunoichi shorts that hugged her thighs, stopping below her knees. On her feet were navy blue kunoichi sandals. A leaf hite ite was tied around her forehead with a blue cloth that matched her sparkling blue eyes. Her orange hair was in a ponytail that went down to her waist. Greetings, I'm Hotaru Kazenagare, owner of the Iron Kimono, a shinobi-only clothing store. I'm a good friend of Tsunade, a retired Jonin, and I'm here to give all 5 of you a full evaluation of your skills. Shall we step outside and find out who's going first? She is, the girls and Naruto said together, pointing at Mei, who whimpered quietly. I won't be going to the academy, why do I have to get tested? Mei grumbled, because I'm already on file and just need to update. You're at least Jonin level, have 2 bloodline limits, and you aren't registered in Konoha. To live here as a leaf kunoichi, they have to know what you can do. Tsunade said, if I didn't owe you for saving me, you'd be wearing a lava bra right now. Mei said, then headed for the door. Hotaru gave Tsunade a brief icy glare, then headed for the door, thinking about how to test Mei's abilities without getting incinerated, if she could use lava. Tsunade didn't tell her that. We only have about an hour of daylight, so I'll be brief. Due to some of you having unusual abilities, I'll only be testing your taijutsu and physical abilities, such as your strength, speed, and skill level. I don't have her strength, but like Tsunade, I'm tougher than I look. I'm an elite Jonin, so please don't hold back unless told to. If you do manage to hurt me, Tsunade can heal me. Your other skills will be tested later. Are you ready, Mei? Hotaru said. Hi. And the same applies to me. I may be soft on the outside, but never doubt my power or skills as a kunoichi. Mei said firmly, then took what looked like a model pose. Right foot back, turned outward, left forward, hands on her hips, left hand low, right high. Her body turned slightly so her left was forward. I'll never be taken like that again, Mei thought. Hotaru scanned Mei's outfit. She hadn't changed since dinner. Her red hair worn up in that odd style, then cascaded down to her ankles. She had on a purple-trimmed, blue silk ankle-length, short-sleeved dress over an armored mesh undershirt. The dress slid up to her hips on both sides, and blue kunoichi sandals. While it highlighted her body superbly, it wasn't meant for battle. When Mei took her stance, Hotaru was surprised. Mei didn't seem to be taking her seriously. She was about to mention Mei's minor insult when an old memory leapt to the front of her mind. It was Mei's stance. No, it can't be. I know she's from Mist, but could Mei have been her final apprentice? I have to know if Mei is the last practitioner of the dancing water lily fighting style. Hotaru thought. Tsunade noticed Mei's stance as well, and was wondering if Mei had a formal training or was self-taught. Tsunade doubted Mei taught herself though. Something about Mei's stance bothered her, like she'd encountered it before. But if she had, where? Tsunade shook it off, she'd figure it out later. 4 minutes 30 seconds later. Hotaru did a sweep kick. Mei quickly hopped over, quickly flowing into a palm strike to the chest. And Mei very quickly spun behind her and slapped her butt. Yet again, she was getting sore there. Hotaru turned to face her and as she expected found Mei standing about 8 feet away smiling. I think that's enough of this show. Next. Mei strolled over to Hotaru. I'm sorry if I embarrassed you, but I'd have preferred to just tell you I'm a cage-level kunoichi. Before you ask how a bunch of thugs caught me, don't. Mei said, then leaned in. Just between us. A private spar would have been more fun. You're almost as impressive as Tsunade. Mei whispered, glancing down at Hotaru's chest, a UAL lilt in her voice on private. Oh, and I don't throw myself at every beautiful woman I meet, only the special ones Tsunade trusts, like you. You want to talk or get to know me better? You know where to find me. I'm in serious need of some adult fun. Mei whispered and winked, then turned and headed for Tsunade. My turn to pick. Have fun, Conan. Conan sighed. Bye, Conan-chan. I'll miss you, Hyuga said, smirking to hold on her laughter. Oh, shut up. Lil bitch, you're going after me. Conan said, smiled at the last part, then walked out. Fu giggled. Meanie. Hyuga yelled. 8:49 p.m. Okay, Conan, Hyuga, Fu, Naruto. Get inside and cleaned up. I want all of you in bed by 9:30. And I will check on you. Hotaru, Mei, stay here. Tsunade said, got a nod from them, then watched them run inside. Based on what you saw, I want a full assessment. Conan? Hotaru thought a moment, then let out a breath. Of the girls, Conan's taijutsu was influenced most by your style. She's very efficient and calculating, mid to long range I'd say. I noticed she had to stop herself from using her origami ability. I've only seen a small sample of it, but she has the potential to reach cage level. Despite her skill, her taijutsu is limited. Don't let her rely only on her special ability, keep her balanced until she's a chunin. Agreed, Tsunade said. That confirmed her basic plans. Now with Konoha's resources she could really start. Hyuga and Fu aren't old enough for a proper evaluation, but you're taking them in the right direction for their unique abilities. Hyuga is impulsive and acts on her instincts, as you know very well, but I recommend she a full kunoichi evaluation as soon as possible. My instincts tell me there's something special about her. Hotaru said. I'm going to talk to Sarutobi about them tomorrow anyway, I'll arrange it. And Fu? Tsunade said. I had to give the same evaluation to Fu and Naruto. Other than Fu's lack of confidence, both have the same special problem. They'll need special training for that, but you can help by pairing them together for sparring and other training. Where Fu is weak, Naruto is strong, and vice versa, they can help each other a lot. Hotaru said. Okay Hotaru, say it. I can take it. Tsunade said calmly, but inside her emotions were churning. Hotaru sighed. I know you thought of this and are resisting it. I'm sorry Tsunade, but this isn't about you, and you know it. Jiraiya is the only person that can help them learn to control their power, and the sooner the better. Tsunade sighed sadly and pouted. I know, we've discussed it, briefly, but I was hoping to put it off a little while. I respect Jiraiya's skills, but he's the biggest pervert I've ever met in my life and I don't want him influencing Naruto before I get him a solid mental and emotional foundation, so he'll be a good man like his father. Or at least keep the perviness to a minimum, publicly anyway. Don't worry about that Tsunade, don't forget he's going to grow up in a home full of kunoichi, he'll learn soon enough how to treat women. Mei said and grinned. Tsunade laughed softly and smiled. Good point, thanks Mei. Speaking of, you've been gone for years, and with this big house, do you have room for a few more special orphans? Hotaru asked, slightly nervous. Tsunade's eyebrows raised slightly. Who did you have in mind? The girl most in need you've already met. Anko Mitarashi, Hotaru said.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.